In this video, we're going to talk about basic routers and we're going to start discussing the concept of what routing is. So, what's the purpose of a router and what do we talk about when we're saying we're routing information? Well, the main purpose of a router is that it routes traffic from one network to the next. So, it's designed to connect different networks together. And so we connect different networks together with routers. And if you remember in some of the previous lectures, I talked about how the router goes on the edge of the network and how we use it to connect to a wide area network. Well, when we're connecting to a wide area network, we're connecting to different networks. Now, another thing about routers is that they don't use MAC addresses. They don't care about MAC addresses. They only operate based upon IP addresses. So our switches within our local networks, they use MAC addresses for communication. However, once data goes to the router and we try to get information or we try to communicate across a wide area network like the internet with another network, we have to use IP addresses for both our source and our destination. And we're not going to talk into a high level of detail about how this works in this course because it's beyond the scope of this course. We're not going to talk about how all these different routing protocols work, but just understand that routers use what we call intelligent decisions. And when we're talking about intelligent decisions, we are talking about using different routing protocols. So there's a number of different routing protocols in place that routers can use, and based upon the scenario and how the network administrator feels is the best way to set up their network, they will choose a specific type of routing protocol. And what the routing protocol is going to do, in a nutshell, it's going to find the best way to get this packet of information from one network to the other. And there's different metrics that they can use, and it's going to look at those metrics based upon what protocols are in place, and it's going to say, okay, this is the best way to get here, this is how I'm going to get here, and this is how I'm going to deliver this information. Now, a router communicates on the OSI layer 3, and so we'll take a look at that right now. And so, for example, I have layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3 side by side. And so let's go ahead and let's talk about these again. So remember, let's start at the bottom. So our hubs are our dumb devices, remember that? And remember, they don't use any sort of intelligent type of decisions whatsoever. They just send out electrical signals. So we're just going to do electrical signals here. So they just send out the electrical signals and nothing else. A switch, on the other hand, they communicate with MAC addresses. And so that's layer 2. And then layer 3, they communicate with IP addresses. And so that's the difference. By the time that we get up to layer 3, routers are going to communicate with IP addresses. On layer 2, once we get a little lower, switches are going to communicate with MAC addresses. And hubs on layer 1, it's just electrical signals going out. So that's what a basic router is, that's what it does, and that's how it works. We're going to talk a bit more about how we send packets and how they get forwarded from one network to another in this section. However, we're not going to go into details and we're not going to talk about the different types of routing protocols because simply that's beyond the scope of this class. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next video.